Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another picturesque episode of the Working Without Pants podcast. This is the place to be if you want to build an agency or service based empire that generates millions in revenue, all while working from home without pants. Gotta lie, I'm not gonna lie, I'm wearing sweatpants right now. And so I'm your host, Jake Jorgovin, and today, again, I have another special solo episode for you guys. I said this one is picturesque because we're talking about frameworks, and pictures have frames and hence frameworks. Couldn't think of a better adjective this time, and I like to have fun and try to come up with something at the start of each of these episodes. So hopefully keep you guys entertained here. But in this episode, I am going to be, again, this is going to be kind of sharing one of the blog posts that I put together and elaborating on this on the podcast. And really, I'm going to be talking about the 7 frameworks that I have on that generate leads on LinkedIn. So 7 LinkedIn outreach frameworks that generate results. And I'm going to be taking this, I'm going to be elaborating on this over the podcast. And I'm really going to split this up over 2 episodes because there's 7 of these things, and it's a pretty huge post. But in this episode, I'm going to cover the standard, the free resource, and the portfolio approach. So those are the first 3 frameworks, probably some of the most important ones we do. Next episode, I'm going to cover the coffee lunch ask, the market research approach, the direct pitch, and the audience growth approach. So that is what I'm going to be diving into in today's episode. And you guys are going to walk away with some awesome scripts and tactics for how to generate results with LinkedIn outreach. Could also be used for cold email as well. Now, before we dive in, I want to point you to 2 sponsors of this show. First of all, if you need new leads for your business, you need help with LinkedIn outreach, say hello to us at leadcookie.com. Guaranteed leads in 30 days or your money back. This is my business where we do LinkedIn lead generation. We are over 60 customers strong, rocking along. And so if you need someone to run your LinkedIn outreach, reach out to us at leadcookie.com. The other sponsor of the show is my new business, which is Content Allies. And so basically, we help content creators 10x their impact with virtual assistants. So if you are a blogger, a content marketing agency, an agency where you're putting out blogs and content, you know that there's all those small little tasks like, okay, let's get it from the Word document onto WordPress. Let's get the settings in the blog set up. Let's get the thumbnail created and uploaded. Let's get the podcast MP3 and then the show notes and all of those things, like all those little tiny things where you create a piece of content and then you got like another 60 to 90 minutes on the back end of every piece of that, of getting it onto the website, getting it shared out to all your social channels. With Content Allies, basically, we're going to think of us like your content marketing manager on demand. We're going to take all those small pieces off your plate where you just train us on how to do them once, and then we handle everything for you. So if you need help and you want to 10x your content impact in 2019, say hello to us at contentallies.com. So either of those is going to go to me. I will handle that inquiry, so feel free to reach out and look forward to hearing from you. Now, let's go ahead and dive into the 7 LinkedIn outreach frameworks here. Also, with these new solo shows, I'm just going live, man. There's no edits, nothing. We're just flying with it, getting it off the cuff. You're getting some jacked up energy, and if anything, it actually gets me more excited and pumped because I can't go back and fix myself. So you're getting the unedited raw Jake here. I'm pretty excited about it. All right, so framework number 1, we call this one the standard. And so if you have seen the how-to guide to LinkedIn lead generation that I published almost a year ago now, this is really the core framework that we started with at LeadCookie. I actually learned this from some other influencers like John Nemo and Josh Turner were teaching this approach. And so it's really, really simple for LinkedIn outreach. And so here's like the overall high-level framework. So what you're going to do is the first thing on LinkedIn, you're gonna send a connection request. In that connection request, you're going to have 300 characters where you can customize that. What you're going to do is you're going to send a light, non-salesy connection request. Something like, hey, browsing tech leaders, your profile looked interesting, want to say hello. I was looking at other, other I don't know, nonprofit leaders in the Denver area, wanted to connect and say hello. Really light, something, wanted to network, or, I published content, thought I'd reach out to connect with others in the industry. Just like something somewhat customized, like you don't not to put a message in there, but put something in there and just really send that non-salesy connection request. Once they accept that connection request, you're going to have the ability to send messages to them over time. And so, really, the approach for this one is pretty simple. Whenever they accept that connection request, there's two things that we really like to do. We also want to send, hey, thanks for connecting, and then we want to ask a probing question. And so by probing question, not salesy, you want something that maybe will give you some information about the prospect, help you qualify them, and it'll really get the conversation started. So one of my probing questions that I've used for LeadCookie is like, hey, what are your primary LinkedIn lead generation, or what, sorry, that's not correct. What are your primary lead generation channels at this point, or how are you getting most of what are you doing to get most of your new clients? So something like that. I was asking like, how are they getting business pretty much? And tons of people would respond. I'd have people saying, oh, word of mouth referrals. I'd have people being like, oh, I've got this, and this set up. And all of that honestly gives me information, and it starts a conversation around lead gen, which is what LeadCookie does. So very useful, very effective. Another example we had, let me think of a few other examples here. We had one for a software developer who specialized in a certain language of JavaScript, and we said, hey, what are your thoughts on X language? What are your thoughts on how that compares to the other JavaScript frameworks? And like really like amazing results. Like these technical decision makers would just like write back essays like, oh, Angular is better, React is better, Node. Like it was crazy. And like you get people talking, and it's not super salesy, and that gives you an ability to kind of communicate back and forth, build some trust, get them on a call, and then ultimately at some point they're like, hey, wait, you do this? Let's talk. So that is kind of message 2. You're really sending over the thank you message and then asking a probing question of some sort. The probing question, actually, that was an innovation we came up with on the line that that was not in the original thing I published over a year ago. And so that is actually a tweak if you guys have seen that original blog that we added, and it massively increases results. Few tips: try not to do a yes/no question. That tends to not be as ideal. And so another example of a way to do this, we had another customer, and they specialize in a certain software tool that, like, it's a big enterprise software tool. A ton of people in the market use it, so it's like, but not everyone. So you got like, probably a 30% chance that any enterprise company they reach out to is using this tool. So we'd reach out and we say, hey, are you using XYZ tool? And if so, on a scale of 1 to 5, how happy are you with it? And there we were able to take a yes or no question and then put like this quantitative thing of like 1 to 5, how happy are you? That actually was a really interesting approach and got really good results, because whenever someone was like, oh yeah, we're using that, but we're like at like a 3, we're kind of frustrated, he's then able to go back and ask, okay, like what would it take to get you to a 5? Like, what would it take? And that's where then his company can come in and offer to help get you to that 5. So again, really simple approach, but try to avoid yes or no and figure out how to get something that starts a conversation, because we found it doesn't convert too well when someone's just like, yeah, no, and that's all you get from them. It's like you're not really starting a conversation. So you want to try to make it open-ended or find a way to set up the conversation where you're actually going to have a conversation. So that is message 2. So message 1, non-salesy light connection request. Message 2, thank them for connecting and ask a probing question. Message number 3. So this is talking about an article or a piece of content. And so one of the other innovations, again, we've had over the past year is we found that sending people content doesn't actually convert that well. But if instead of sending someone a link and saying, hey, here's this article I wrote, you say, hey, I put together this resource about XYZ, and I think you'd find value in it. Would you like me to send it to you? That subtle change is insanely, like it will insanely increase your conversions. And so, for an example of this, you say, hey, like I've got a case study on how we helped XYZ company, and increase their sales by $60,000 in the first month. We show exactly what we did. Would you like me to send it to you? People are like, yeah, sure, let's send that over. Or I've got a resource that shows like how to do XYZ. Would you like me to send it to you? Yeah, sure, yeah. And that gets really good engagement. And we've done this a ton. And like you just get people saying, sure, yeah, send it over. And not every single one of those, like after you send it over, not every single one of those is going to engage with you. But you've gotten that first response, which is better than like no response at all. So that is like super valuable. You're going to see like throughout the other frameworks this concept of just asking for permission to send something over is a super, like it's a trend that we use over and over again, and it's super powerful. It gets really, really good results for our customers. So that is message 3, is to basically send over an article, piece of content, really by asking, like kind of sell the article, ask them if they want you to send it to them. So message 1, connection request, non-salesy, light connection. Message 2, send a thank you message, ask a probing question. And message 3, ask permission to send an article or a piece of content or valuable resource. All that, they still don't engage, they still not working. You're going to make a direct pitch and ask for a meeting. Some people straight up, like, they don't have time to talk, so they don't have time to look at your resource. But you say, hey, like, I can help you do X, Y, Z. This is what we deliver. Do you want to talk? And like they just need it straightforward. This is especially true of like busy decision makers, higher you go up in organizations. So at some point, like that last one, we're just going to make that direct pitch, go straight forward with it. Think about this like your standard cold email approach of like, this is what we do. Would you like to talk more? That is kind of the final one where you're going to send that on the message 4. So that is the standard. That is really the kind of the main framework that we go with probably more often than not for a lot of them, unless they fit well into the other framework. So that is framework number 1. We call that one the standard. All right. So there we go. The standard framework. All right. Hope you guys are pumped, get excited. We're going to framework 2. Here we go. All right, framework number 2, the free resource offer. So this one is another approach, and this is actually a really good one as well if, say, you're running this on your own and you're wanting to use the light version of our service and you can't handle the 4-step message sequence, because this one works really well even if it's just a 2-step sequence. And so this one is the framework 2 is called the free resource offer. And so here's how it works. Again, connection request is going to be basically the same as I described before. Light connection request, just kind of positioning your company. Message 2 is basically going to say, I put together this free resource. Would you like me to send it to you? And so even if you don't go to message 3 or 4, which you could try to reiterate that, try it differently, take message 2 where you're just going to say, I'm put together this free resource. Would you like me to send it to you? So I'll share with you some more examples of what this looks like. So one we had was a marketing company specialized in a niche, and they said, hey, we have a case study on how we generated like over $60,000 of new revenue for one of our customers in the first 30 days of working together. Would you like me to send it to you, share it with you? It shows exactly how we did it. Tons of engagement, tons of yeses, works out really, really well. We have another one where it was actually like a high-level consulting firm. Like these guys are doing like $1 million deals, and they've got this white paper specifically for like these niche people. Like this is like a subset of like when you talk to people that work in enterprise and like they're doing something that like you don't even know existed. Like this is like how niche they were. It's like I didn't even know that services like them existed. And so they reach out to these like very specific people that have a need, and they say, hey, we put together this white paper that is all about this, and we basically like sell it, and then the other thing we add to that is like this includes lessons we've learned from working with like GE and Deloitte and like Apple, or like all these companies that they had consulted for, IBM or Xerox. Would you like me to send it to you? So in addition to like saying, hey, here's the resource and here's what it is, we added social proof of saying this includes the lessons we've learned from working with companies like Boom, 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 name drop a bunch of big name customers. And suddenly that resource is like, oh, wow, well, hold on, like they do work for all these companies? Yeah, I'd love to see that resource. And so you build that social proof when you offer the free resource, and that again helps the conversion significantly. And so that again one works really, really well. And we've done that again. We actually had another customer who did kind of like innovation consulting space, and he had a book about kind of like their programs and what they do. And so what we did is he was working against super high-level VPs, Fortune 500 companies, and he has this book as a resource. So if you've got a book, man, like, and it's actually a good book and it doesn't suck, but like like these resources. I guess what I'm saying, like these resources you're sending need to be good. Like don't try to say like, hey, I've got a blog on 5 or like an article on 5 tips to like make more money online. Like no one wants that crap. Like you got to put out a resource that's freaking awesome, and that is going to entice people and get them excited and interested in you. So this guy, he had this book, really powerful book, very useful for these high-level buyers, and he says, hey, I've written a book on X topics. Again, it includes lessons we learned from from working with Boom, 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 Boom. Would you like me to send you a copy? And again, super powerful one here. Really, really useful. And the client literally, he said to me, your team has generated more results and engagement in the past 2 weeks than I've gotten with any marketing firm I've hired over the past few years. So this approach like just blew it out of the water for him. It was just super powerful, super excited about it. And he's just he literally had to go order more books because he was sending out so many books. And like, yeah, it's got a cost to him to send them these books, but he's like, man, I'm getting my message in front of so many of these high-level decision makers at these big companies. Like, I know that this is like a long sales cycle, but this is the start of a relationship that I can nurture over time. So that, again, free resource offer, book, stuff like that is, again, super valuable. All right, so that is framework number 2. Again, you can add a third one on there where you kind of like reiterate the value offer of the message in a different way, offer it again, and then message 4, direct pitch, or literally message 2 message sequence, and that will still be super powerful. So that is framework numero 2. In case you haven't noticed, I've learned Spanish over the last quarter, and I gave a 5-minute Spanish presentation in Mexico. So I might break into random spurts of Espanol on the podcast, but probably not. Anyway, on to framework number 3. Super excited for this one. This is the portfolio approach. And so this one is super relevant for this audience. So if you are creative agencies, copywriters, freelancers, marketing firms, like your portfolio is going to sell you more than anything else, especially like design or anyone where you're like have a visual component to what you sell, or copywriting where someone can just like look at your work and be like, oh, they're a good writer. And this is like where this approach came from. And like I know this works because I used to run a creative agency. We were a video production agency. We did about $1 million in revenue, and we were working with some really big stuff. And so I would have freelancers reaching out to me all the time, and they wanted to come like contract and work for us. And so here I was in like the decision maker seat, running an agency, and I had all these freelancers, and they would just send me their portfolio, or they'd send me their stuff, and I would always look at it, because like when you're running a business that needs resources, that you like, you're gonna just like look and see what people have, especially when it's like this easy thing that's like visual to look at, when it's design, when it's video, when it's like, building apps. Like you can kind of look at the case studies in that and be like, oh, these people are good or these people suck. Like there's a lot of crappy portfolios I got. But I was always looking for resources, and so anytime someone sent it to me, I'd always check it, and I literally had like a Google Doc somewhere where I just saved all of these links and contact info, so that way when we had a project, I'd have a list of people to contact. And so this is kind of like where I knew that that's like the mindset you sit at in the decision maker. And so a lot of mistakes that people get, like when you're like doing design, or you're doing like, like you're building like, websites for people, or you're You're doing videos, like everyone, like they get into this like salesy marketing copy and they like try to sell like the value of like we do XYZ, and they like get into like all this crap from copywriting, and it just sounds stupid, because like really you just make videos. Like that's what you do, is you make videos. And so don't try to tell me you make videos that tell compelling stories that nurture people through the funnel, and like that's, I get it. I get what you're trying to do, but really people like, well, if I'm gonna hire a videographer, I'm gonna look at your videos and be like, your video's good, cool, I'm gonna hire you. Like that's the decision making process here. Like your stupid like long email copy is not gonna sell me. Um, and so I like share this because like when you're doing like the portfolio outreach approach, like the mindset is simple. Get your portfolio in front of a crap ton of people who could be buyers for your services. Like that is it. Like you don't need to do like insane stuff of like trying to write these like elaborate things that try to like convey what you do when really like you just do creative work. Um, and so that is kind of like I just had to like get on the soapbox here and rant on that, because I get pitched from people all the time when I'm just like, man, you would have been way better if you just sent me a link to your website. Anyway, so this one really easy. This is a great one to do in a two-step approach as well. So if you're doing this on your own, or you want to use the light version of our service, which is lower cost, again, really, really simple approach. So message one, you're going to send again that light connection request to position your offer. Just really simple, nothing crazy, just like I've talked about before. And then message two, we're going to say, my company does X. Would you like to see our portfolio? That's pretty much it. You can add some social proof in there. That'll help increase conversion. If you say, my company does X, we've worked with ABC clients. Would you like to see our portfolio? Like that is pretty much it. It's so easy. It's so simple. Like, and again, you're going to ask to get their permission to send it. You're not just going to blast it through. But what you're going to get is going to get tons of people that are like, sure, send this over. And and they may not need you now, but they may need you later. This is also really good if you work with like agencies. Like there's so many people where it's like, hey, we contract for other agencies, like creative directors, art directors, agency owners, producers, all those people, like they always need resources. They may not need you today. They may need you 6 months from now, but they're always like trying to have good resources on hand that they need for a project. It's just like what I was talking about when I ran an agency. I'm always looking for videographers. I may not need them today. I may need them, 9 months from now when I sign that 100K project that's got a 30-day deadline and I need to freaking deliver. But I am always going to keep those on, and I'll try to kind of keep that database of quality people so I can call on them when I need them, because you never know if your people are going to be available or not. So some examples of this. So we had a copywriter who specializes in a super narrow niche. And basically in like our onboarding call, she's like, yeah, when someone sees my portfolio, they're typically amazed and can bring me on for a project whenever it's a good fit. So literally we just reached out to our decision makers. We said, hey, I have experience working and I specialize in this particular space. Here are some of the clients I work with. Would you like to see my portfolio? Literally got engagement from the director of content at Slack. Like that is the kind of like the level of people that were engaging with this. So this stuff freaking works if you can just like do it. It's like so simple. We had another development agency. Again, really impressive portfolio of work. And literally, like we've just been running with them for like 6 months now, and they've got really big name customers in the past. And we just keep reaching out and offering to share the portfolio, and it's working like bonkers, super well. And literally, it's just like, yeah, please send it. And like the thing is with this, obviously, like your portfolio has to be good. If your work sucks, like that's no good. So again, super super important one here. We had another one. A videographer who's in a local geography, and so like any videographer, like you want clients in your local area, we put together queues for them, and we would just reach out and we say, hey, I'm a local videographer, specialize in working in these industries. Wanted to connect. Would you like to see my portfolio? And we also for him added, and also love to meet up for coffee or lunch sometime. So you get all these people responding, engaging, saying, hey, yeah, like send your portfolio over, and then he's meeting for lunch, and literally he's like getting jobs out of this in like 30, 45 days of starting our approach. And so again, this stuff is super valuable. You could use this as a freelancer, as an agency, anything like that. So those are the first three frameworks. Framework 1, the standard approach, where you're going to send that thank you message, ask the probing question. Framework 2, the free resource offer. And Framework 3, the portfolio approach. So those, again, like super powerful, most important thing. And like the thing is, like you can do a lot of these on your own. Like it doesn't take huge complex thing. If you want a team to run it and do it all for you, like that's what we do at Lead Cookie, is we make this super easy. So you literally just handle getting leads in your inbox, and then you just respond and nurture those, and you don't have to deal with all the other parts of this. But again, you can run this on your own. Take these frameworks; they work. They're proven. Sometimes you got to figure out the exact right framework that's going to work for you. But hopefully these kind of like anecdotes help you kind of self-select, or you hear someone that's similar to what you're doing, and you can kind of use that as a framework. So be sure to check back on the next episode where I'm going to dive into the final 4 of those frameworks. And until next time, I want to just point again, if you need leads for your business, you need help with all this LinkedIn outreach, reach out to us at leadcookie.com. And if you need help, if you're creating content, you're running a content agency, and you want to get that low-value, monotonous work off your plate with everything with publishing content, getting it out on social, all of those small, boring tasks that are not fun, and they just take a lot of time, and they're like $3 an hour work when you should be doing $50, $100 an hour work, then really just reach out to us at contentallies.com. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and until next time, I hope you are working without pants.